This Sun-Gazette video coverage is proudly sponsored by Woodlands Bank.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Sports Talk, part 2 here, talking about South Williamsport, Muncy, and Jersey Shore, how they did week 3. South Williamsport with a tough one. They had to go up to, the juggernaut that is Troy, lost 43-7. That was 43-0 going into early in the fourth quarter when South was able to break I believe it was a 26-yard run for a touchdown to avoid the shutout. Obviously, South Williamsport had to know they were going to be in for a tough one because Troy is just on a whole nother level.
Yeah, they're number one in the state, like you said, ahead of Southern Columbia, which tells you everything you need to know about them. Troy's not going to lose a regular season game this year. I think their toughest challenge was in week 2 against Delaware, Dover, Delaware, who was ranked in the top 5 in the big school division in Delaware. I don't know what that the big school division classifies as in Delaware, but they're in it. Man, that's the second straight week I've taken shots at Delaware. We'll have to try to make that a weekly thing. Troy, I lost my train of thought here. Yeah, Troy's a juggernaut. South actually held up not too bad, like in terms of defense, but they gave up 2 punt returns for touchdowns to Mason Smith, and that was a killer. Against a team like Troy, you got to have everything buttoned up, and those giving up those 2 punt returns, that put them in a 21-point hole right there.
Yeah,
you're just not going to be able to come back. Not as young as South is, they're not going to be able to come back against a team like Troy with that kind of deficit.
Yeah, I mentioned the special teams. I mean, a lot of times special teams get overlooked for any team at any level, but they had the 2 punt returns. It kind of shows that Troy isn't just, obviously they're going to run the ball well and all that, and they can throw it. But when you mix in the special teams, it adds another element that you have to try to account for to try to contain them.
Yeah, and their special teams have been amazing the last, probably, I'd say 5 years. Nobody in District 4 has returned more kickoffs and punts than they have. Already. I think they already have 3 this season. They had a bunch of them the last 2 years. So it's just one more thing that teams have to focus on when playing Troy. You got to be at the top of your game. And, going back, I guess, from South's perspective, I think we said last week, they have some tough opponents left on their schedule, but they don't have anybody like Troy the rest of the way. So, it stinks to lose, but I think there's a lot they can learn from playing Troy. And, it's something that can make them better down the road.
That was going to be my next question. What the loss hurts and it stinks for them, but obviously the South is already Eisworth, I'm sure, already has them focused on this week, and they already put that loss in the rearview mirror. But do you think they can take a lot of positives from that loss and going for the rest of the season here?
Yeah, and because like I said, I think yardage wise, I think they gave up fewer than 300 yards against Troy, which is pretty good. They obviously struggled offensively, but everybody struggles offensively these days against Troy.
Yep.
But yeah, I think seeing that kind of speed, that combination of speed and power, I think going down the road, it should give them confidence that they're not going to see anybody as fast and strong as Troy is. They're going to see good competition, but nothing like Troy. So, I think take the positives of individual battles that a given player won on that night and build on that, and I think it can kind of sharpen their iron, so to speak, and make them better as they go forward, starting this week against Milton, which will be a good game.
Talk a little bit about just Evan Woodward for Troy and how much of a difference maker he is for that team and that offense.
Yeah, he's a really dynamic quarterback, maybe the most maybe the biggest dual threat quarterback in the district, which is saying a lot because there's a lot of great dual threat quarterbacks. But he leads them in rushing. He throws for a bunch of yards, which Troy never threw the ball in the past. So that's a testament to his ability that they kind of opened up the offense a lot. But yeah, he's just a good steady leader. He's a great athlete. He's a really good basketball player. He's just one of those kids that has a great mind for the game, whatever game he's playing. And they have a lot of great players, but he's kind of the engine powering them.
Yep. Muncy here in the next game. Muncy with a 45-25 win over Kawaneski Valley at home last week. Obviously, we know Muncy can run the ball, and they showed that against Kawaneski. Austin Johnson and Landon Walmer both with 3 first-half touchdowns apiece. Johnson ends with 156 yards on 10 carries. Landon Walmer with 50 on 3. Do you think that just kind of further reiterates how good their ground game is, and how teams have to kind of account for especially for Austin Johnson.
Yeah, as a package, it's tough because, I think you really have to obviously put a lot of attention on Austin Johnson. And when you have somebody like a Landon Wammer to throw at you, that's tough because he's a dynamic player. He's, for his career, he averages over 10 yards a carry. And I mentioned this in the power rankings last week. I think he's one of only 5 players in the 2000s who has more than 1,000 career rushing yards and is averaging over 10 yards a carry. And the other ones are Dominic Bragalone, Darrell Blackman, drawing a blank here, Cody Butler, who used to work with us, but needless to say, he's up there with. That tells
really
you a lot
company.
because those are some phenomenal players that he's up there with. So that's a great Thunder and Lightning duo, and it gives the defense a lot to think about. And they really, I think they probably would have thrown the ball more against Cal Valley, but the game got so lopsided so quick that they didn't. So, and they can throw the ball. Styles Ayers is a good quarterback, and they've got some playmakers there. So, and they're a run-first team. But I think it's nice for them to know that in their back pocket they've got a good quarterback who can sling it a little bit too.
Yeah, I think for Sean Tetra, their coach, I think that's nice too, knowing that, like you said, obviously they can run it for. But if let's say they run into a team that has a good run stop defense, like all right, let Styles air it out, and you can still move the ball.
And they're going to have to down the road. Not. They're going to have to be more balanced going forward, and they can be. They showed it in their 2 games against South last year, and just looking down the road, if both teams stay healthy, I think it probably comes down to Muncy and Line Mountain this year, and they're going to have some balance against them. And it's good to know that they can. Ayer threw for over 1,000 yards last year, and he's been good when he's thrown it so far this year too.
Obviously we talk about their offense a good amount here the last few weeks, but I think their defense gets a little overshadowed. I mean, they, Kalinowski was held I believe only had 6 points or so until the fourth quarter, and then they were able to kind of punch in some touchdowns when the backups were in. But Muncy's defense did an outstanding job not letting Kalinowski get anything going from the offensive end through the first 3 quarters.
Yeah, and that's 2 straight weeks of starters haven't allowed a point. And even against Warrior Run, who's undefeated, until the fourth quarter they contained that high-powered offense. So, they and it's small school football, so a lot of those players that are shining on offense are doing it on defense too. And I think their run defense has really stepped up. And I think in the second, I think I think it was good for them. Cal Valley's kind of been an air passing first team this year, and I think it was good that their secondary kind of shut them down until late in the game when all the backups were in. That was a good test for that unit.
Jersey Shore hosted Selinsgrove, a 55-21 win for the Bulldogs. We've talked last week about how Shore and Selinsgrove have real tight games, real good games going forward, and then this year Shore just said, let's just dial it up here. Another reporter from another area paper mentioned to you about how he thinks Jersey Shore's offense is running their no huddle even faster than previous years.
Which seems impossible.
I don't know how that's possible to begin with, but
it's I've never, like I said, I told you yesterday, Tom Gravish told me, I thought last year they ran it faster than they ever had. And Tom Gravish said after a game, well, I don't think we're running it fast enough. I just don't know how you can run it any fast. Like the referees are literally, they're waiting on the referees to spot the ball. And it's, when it's working for them, it's fun to watch. As a reporter, it's hard to keep up with because you have to learn how to write with your eye. You can't look down for a second because if not, with them, you might miss 2 plays.
Yeah, exactly.
I was, that was a great showing for their offense to kind of have a breakout game like that.
It was 35-7 at the half. You were at the Williamsport game, but when you saw at halftime it's 35-7 Shore, were you how surprised were you that they were up kind of that big on Selinsgrove against a rival like that?
Very surprised. And I think I said last week it was one of those games where I thought, the first team to 20 might win, and it did. Jersey Shore did. They got to 20 first, but they got there a heck of a lot faster than I thought they would. And that's a great sign for Jersey Shore, and going in, and it's another springboard win for them with yet another tough game coming up against undefeated Shamokin this week.
And Shore had 559 yards of offense, and their defense limited to Selinsgrove to just 96 passing and 106 rushing. And a lot of that already came with the game sort of already decided there late.
I think a lot of that, I mean, I know Selinsgrove had a 78-yard touchdown run, and I think that was after the starters were out of there. So, yeah, that makes it look even more impressive. And again, I mean, it gets lost in, the score being lopsided, but they were down 7-0, so it makes it 3 straight weeks that they've come from behind to win a game, which, is a good sign for them as well going forward. But just, obviously a super all-around performance.
And Zach Powell from Lockhaven Express, their sports editor who we work with a lot, he was at the game, and he wrote a nice story about how they had a moment of silence for Max Engel before the game, and just how Coach Grav has mentioned about how Engel, he's not lost on the Jersey Shore community even a year later after his unfortunate passing.
No, and I don't think he, ever will be. And, especially for so many of these students, he would have graduated last year, but so a lot of these teammates played with him. So many students in the high school, were friends with him that are still there, and he was just a great person within the community. So, I think it went beyond the football field with what Max Engel meant to them. So, I think he'll be with them for a long time. And, he's obviously still a tremendous source of motivation for them.
Yep, absolutely. Has just a huge impact on the community still. That'll do it here for this breakdown for part 2. When we come back, we'll look ahead at week 4.